Dr. Emily Landau is a Senior Research Fellow at INSS and the head of the Arms Control and Regional Security Program, and she joins me in studio with further insight. Dr. Landau, it's always a pleasure.
Hi, good evening.
Now, there's concern that Trump's maximum pressure campaign might not, in fact, force Iran to yield, but instead rather drive Iran back to a path of re-nuclearisation. What, to your mind, is more likely?
Well, it's hard to say at this point. Iran is making threats, I think, out of desperation. Their major message actually was not to the United States, but rather to the Europeans that have not been able to successfully create a mechanism that would circumvent U.S. sanctions, and therefore they're not getting the economic deals that they were hoping for. But it's not working this time. The EU is sending messages that if Iran starts, stops adhering to some of its commitments, they will view this as a serious development, and there will be consequences for that. They didn't even get support from Russia. So I think Iran is looking around and seeing that it's not getting the support that it hoped it would get. I would be very surprised if they actually exit the JCPOA. I think, again, I mean, Iran is trying. They would rather push back than have to go back to the table. Neither side wants this to escalate to warfare. That's clear. Everyone knows that there can be miscalculations, but it's not in their interest, and we'll have to see how this develops.
So then if it is clear that it seems that Iran is holding on to this nuclear deal with sheer desperation, as you say, desperation, and it's relying on the EU to try and find a way to circumvent these US sanctions, are Iran's threats putting pressure on the United States? As you say, it's rather to send a message to the EU, or in fact giving the United States more power, or rather more leverage with the EU then?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think what's important right now is for the strong international actors to push back, to get the message across to Iran that they will not be allowed to call the shots. They can't hold the international community hostage to their whim. And I think they're getting that message.
But are these actions and these threats from Iran not, I suppose, supporting the United States case to say to the EU, you need to unite with us, not with Iran?
I think, and that's what we're seeing happening, because the minute they threaten to leave the deal or to stop adhering to some of their commitments, they see that the reaction is not as they expected. In the past, we saw the Europeans always scrambling to try to get something in place to get more economic deals for the Iranians, to circumvent the sanctions. They put up this whole mechanism, which again has not proven very effective. And this time that's not happening. And I think that the Iranians are getting that message. Now, hopefully, what will happen is we will pass this stage and it will evolve into the next stage where the Iranians will come back to the table when they see that they don't have support.
But how does Iran do
isolated.
that and save face at the same time?
Well, look, they might not be able to save face. We have to remember, Iran is a very bad faith actor in the Middle East. It's an aggressive, the regime is an aggressive entity in terms of their regional activities. They're not being cooperative on the nuclear front. They're not allowing inspections at their military facilities. They're not being fully cooperative with the IAEA, despite all the reports that we hear, that the IAEA says they're upholding the minimal commitments according to the deal. But this whole issue of the military facilities has not been dealt with adequately. And their ballistic missile program, of course, which they're pushing forward almost unhindered. So they're an aggressive entity, and I think that, it's not a situation where Iran and the international powers are equal. Iran violated an international treaty. They deceived, they lied, they cheated, they worked on a nuclear weapons program.
But the international community wants to keep Iran in check, and so this is what the JCPOA is trying to do. So Trump is relying on Iran coming back to the table for that.
Well, the problem is that deal, I mean, that was a really lost opportunity with the JCPOA, because the international community had leverage. Unfortunately, the Obama administration and the Europeans were working according to this false assumption that the Iranians would view the benefits of cooperation. They would then talk about ballistic missiles, regional activities. Of course, none of that happened. Iran got a pretty good deal. They got sanctions relief for minimal nuclear concessions, and the deal does doesn't stop them from becoming a nuclear weapons power down the line. Trump administration wants to turn that around and to get a better deal.
So what makes the lessons of North Korea so important when it comes to Iran?
Well, that's an excellent question, because North Korea is the example that should be at the forefront and everyone should be thinking about, because we see what happens when a state or a determined aggressive proliferator like North Korea, like Iran, when they cross the threshold, the options become very, very limited. Trump was handed a nuclear North Korea, so all the expectations of denuclearization were not too realistic. If Iran crosses that threshold, we will be in the same situation with Iran.
Well, it's certainly a precarious situation, seeing all of these forces being moved around the Gulf. Emily Landau, thank you so much.
Thank you.